back.
Hey, Howie, the fitness gorillas are back in town.
Eric, we're in two different towns.
So what news do you have today that made you in a happy, positive,
We have breaking
cheerful,
news. We have breaking news out of the province of Quebec, affecting all of Montreal, all of South Shore of Montreal, all the North Shore, and some other little areas. Quebec City. We're all known as red zones because we do so well with the COVID. Anyway, they reshut all the gyms. As of this afternoon, all gyms are shut again till at least the 28th of the month. They stopped all team sports in schools, but they still have, all the restaurants are closed. All the bars are closed. Now all the gyms are closed. But they allow kids to go to school without masks on, and they allow hairdressers to sit and talk to you for 2 hours an inch from your face, and nail people also. But this they thought was a good idea. They're goddamn morons. Quebec government, no, they gotta go. Anyway,
well, you can always vote. You can
always
vote for
vote.
the other
I didn't vote
side.
for them, and now I for sure won't vote for them again. The only problem is, if it was consistent, it's one thing. So
There's no consistency anywhere in the world on any topic.
No, but this is nonsensical.
They're playing catch up all the time. Well,
at first they were allowing restaurants to have terraces for a while, like before they reopened completely. So then this time they shut even the terraces, although all throughout Montreal for the summer, they had all these, use it yourself terraces all around. So people take out the food from the restaurant because you're allowed takeout still. And they go and sit at the picnic tables anyway. So they're all jammed in together anyway. That's okay. A restaurant that actually followed the rules, that's not okay. Just completely run by morons here. And that's it.
Well, I think this is very important for the people that are listening to us
Damn
from all
right
the continents. All the messages and compliments that we're receiving now throughout the Sahara, through the Middle East, through South America, Mozambique, Montenegro. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I guess we can talk about Quebec. But anyway, we have a special guest today. Okay, his name is Mr. Brandon Bender, and he is a professional fighter. He's the global director of UFC. He has a love for the sport, a love for his UFC company, and he's like a bulldog about it. I mean, there's no messing around with him. He wants to make sure that what UFC puts out in the world, all over the world, is the purest form of MMA, and he stands behind that. So a little bit about him. He's been doing it for 20 years. He's a professional fighter for 12 years. He has a record of 12 wins, 2 losses, although the time I put a can of whip ass on him, he doesn't admit it, okay? And he's been a black belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt now for 10 years. And his lineage is Carlson, Gracie, Senior, and Rodrigo, Medeiros, and Romie, Aram to Brandon Bender. That's a very powerful, obviously you've recognized some of those names. And he's going to talk to us about life in UFC at the moment. I mean, UFC's in so many countries around the world. I mean, all over the world. He'll talk a little bit about that. And if you have any questions, please call in again, and we'll put him through to Brandon. So let's have a big welcome for Mr. Bender.
Here he is.
Hey, welcome. Brandon.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for that intro, and I'm a super duper big fan of you guys. And anytime before any meeting or anything like that, I always try to watch me some fitness gorillas. Before I meet with the team, I get some good tips. Yeah, you guys are giving away for free. You might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah,
I'm on Facebook watching it.
It'll before you have a fight, you put on one of our rants, and it's going to amp you up. You don't need anybody else.
Yeah,
you don't need any Schwarzenegger stuff.
I can't believe you mentioned the time that you beat me up and didn't put that in the record. That's supposed to be a gym secret
now.
It's supposed to be a secret. I know.
Out there now.
It's all over the world. So Brandon, tell me, you're a professional fighter, okay? You're a family man. I know I saw some pictures of your beautiful daughter. We were just talking about her. She's young. She's 5, right?
She's 5. Yes, correct.
Okay. So how do you manage to have a young, beautiful daughter you are a fighter, and how do you become the head person to guarantee the quality of UFC around the world? How do you do that?
Yeah, so it's tough. Work-life balance is always a tough thing that I think anybody in any industry has to deal with. But I always put on the forefront of my mind, if I don't go to work and I don't do the right thing, then I'm not gonna be able to take care of my daughter. So it's always super important to me to make sure my work's done. I put work, not I want to say first, but I put it first to put her first because I want to put her, in a good school. I want her to have a good life. I want her to teach her the right things. And if she could see me working all day and doing the things that I'm doing that I'm passionate about, hopefully in her life she could do that so she doesn't have to rely on a husband or a boyfriend or anything like that. I just want her to be super successful and look up to her father. But yeah, it's hard, right? I live in Southern California and I live in LA County, and she's in kindergarten and they have to spend online till about 8 a.m. to 11:20, I think is her school, and you have to be right there with her, helping her. And obviously we have work to do. And during this quarantine, it's probably been the worst time for me because I'm a gym addict. I'm a gym freak. I love working out. I love fighting. I love every aspect of MMA, and I haven't had the chance to really work out like I want. But I'm working out and fighting in a different way, and fighting for UFC Gym as we continue to grow in the fitness industry and grow throughout the world, and being at the forefront of that and being a part of this great team that we have is just is super special to me. I feel like I'm doing my duty. I feel like I'm doing God's work with this job that I'm doing.
Well, what a perfect fit you are for UFC. But you brought up something I got to ask you. Okay, so you mentioned that you're working your butt off to make sure that your daughter doesn't have to rely on a boyfriend or husband or whatever. How is the interview going to go on your daughter's first date?
she ain't gonna go on anyhow. That's the deal. That's the deal. You know what? She already has two boyfriends. That she calls boyfriend. My mom lets her go at it, but ever since she was little, she's plays with the dolls, and this boy's fighting over two dolls, like two girls fighting over a guy, two guys, whatever, right? It's I know I'm gonna have a headache, and she's beautiful, but whatever. He better be a good guy. I actually have a great story. I had a student of mine. His daughter was going on her first date out of high school, and he actually borrowed. He was a purple belt at the time. He's one of my black belts now, but he borrowed one of our coaches here. Borrowed his black belt. When the guy came to the door, he said he walked down the stairs with his gi on, with the black belt, and said, "Hey, you better be back at 10 o'clock." And sure enough, she never saw the guy again after that. Didn't date him anymore, but she was. So shout out to my student Eris out there.
Oh man,
that makes sense.
Good idea.
That makes sense. That's what I thought you were going to do. That was going to be my next question. Are you going to come down? No,
she's not going to go on any. He better be a. I don't know. He better be.
Just don't let her go on anything. Just never. She's done. Just no boys.
Hey, but you know what? But in all serious, making sure for me, like all the kids that we have here at UFC Gym, and I think I speak for everybody in the martial art industry, we want to teach people self-respect, and if something does happen and you're put in an uncomfortable spot, that you can protect yourself. And I've done it for many kids, many women that have come in low confidence. They come in and they're beating up all the guys, after 12 months of training with me and the other coaches. And that's what I want for my daughter. If something ever happens that she doesn't want, well, she'll be able to kick any guy's butt because she's Brandon Bender's daughter. So that's how I feel about it.
And you can tell them that when they come to their first date.
I said, you ain't got to worry about me. You got to worry about my daughter, because I've been training her for this moment since she was a baby.
Well, that brings up something. Yeah. So most people think of UFC as badass guys fighting, right? You just hit on the fact that you teach children. So what's the mix between families, children, and maybe talk a couple of minutes on what the actual teaching is for children? Because, I know, Howie knows, but the persona still is out there. There's fighting, UFC fighting, and that's got to be what the gyms are like. So take a few minutes if you can and tell us about the family aspect, about kids and what they learn and why it's like that at UFC.
Yeah, and what else is the
Yes.
value of it?
Yeah. So
Yeah, the
for
value.
me, UFC is unity, family, and community, all kind of wrapped in one. When you come and walk through those doors, it's not a typical fight gym. Um, and even when we say typical fight gym, I hate that word fight gym, because even though you're going to like a regular fight studio, man, these guys, they have to make sure, the professionals, they have to make sure they do everything that they can to be ready to perform on one night, and they're trying not to get hurt. And you got to trust the people who you're working out with that you don't get hurt. And everybody's got a good fun. It's a good atmosphere when you have a good team around you. Now there's one-offs, and there's people that they green light people, and people get you know walk in like they're Conor McGregor and stuff like that, and don't realize that's just on the TV. But again, when you walk inside UFC gym, we have a family atmosphere, and we're all about kids. We have tons of kids classes, we have family classes, and that's what really separates us. I'm at UFC GYM Rosemead, which is the first club, first club I started at. It's the second club for the organization, and walk in and say, man, there's a kids club, there's a kids mat room, kids dojo. And how do we tailor fit a class? So, what do parents want and what do kids want? Well, a lot of times parents come and they bring their kids, obviously for self-confidence, but to get that discipline, right? But there's a marriage between discipline and fun, and teaching the coaches to really intersect that and meet somewhere in the middle. So you are teaching the kids to bow in, to listen to their coach, do their homework, listen to their parents, hang out with the right people. That's a huge one for me growing up. I got in a lot of trouble growing up, and part of it, I think, because I didn't have a father growing up, and I was trying to look for friends, and I got picked on. I started hanging around, not necessarily with the wrong people, but people who were not necessarily doing the right things. And I think that you're 90 to 95% of who you hang around with. So really teaching the kids to have great relationships, to be open with their coaches and parents of what happens at school or outside of the gym or at home or inside of the gym, to create that trust. That's a big one. When a coach or a parent or anybody can develop that trust in a child, that you can have that open dialogue where they'll just tell you anything, is huge. And then they'll start listening to you. You create that buy-in with them. And
How young do you start them, Brendan? How young can they start?
We start at 6. We feel that that's the best age, because we have a mix of kids in there. Sometimes when they're 3 to 5 years old, it's really hard to get them to listen. It kind of takes away from the older kids. But I like I said, when I started doing martial arts as a kid. But again, when you start hanging out with the wrong people, those things kind of go out the door. So just instilling that to me is super important, and to teach the kids not to make the same mistakes I made, right? It is huge.
How can you, because I've commented a few times to Adam and Mark and everything about the UFC persona and the brand. And Adam was on our show. Adam said, like, the president, and he had mentioned that the majority of the members are family members, parents with children. But it still doesn't come across in most of the marketing and the brand, even though I've seen the later marketing the last year and a half. I believe you changed to a different agency, and I like it. I think it's much easier for people to understand that it is for families. What else can you do in the communities and everything to make that UFC is for the families? What kind of outreach can you do to make that it's
More
better for
obvious.
business? More
As a
obvious.
business,
That's a good
it
word.
might scare people away. That's the thing.
Yeah,
That's
so
right. And
with our coaches, our different managers, our sales department, they go out to schools, they put on events, they get outside the local community. We'll bring students and coaches, and they'll be holding pads so people can see, give a little demo to see actually what we do at UFC Gym. And to your point, a lot of times parents just bring in the kid, and they end up watching, and rather than watch, they decide, hey, I want to join too. Like I can work out while my kid works out, and that's the special thing about most of our UFC gyms in our big boxes, let's say, because in a smaller type studio, you have a certain time where the kids work out, maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, and then 6, 7 p.m. roll around, then the adults come in, right? But at UFC gym, it's not like that because we're at our big box. We have a big facility, so the parents just end up joining so they can kid work out, and then they leave together. They have fun together. Go home and talk about, hey, what did you do in class today, or whatever the case is, whatever they decide to do at the gym, because we have so many different things here. We're not just an MMA gym. We have, as you know, we have group fitness, functional fitness training, everything across the board. So
yeah, for me, it's the greatest value because it's a full fitness center as well as UFC MMA. So it's an incredible value, and I've been to so many of them. They're all beautifully done, and it's a great atmosphere. It's a different atmosphere than a fitness center. It's much more connected, much more as a club. Just to touch on your point, Brandon, about who you hang around with is so important in your childhood.
Yeah.
So way back in time, my brother and I were members of the most dangerous, smelliest, poorest martial arts club in Montreal. It was in the bowels of Chinatown, and you couldn't even open.
Butcher shop
It
underneath.
stunk. The smell. I mean, just to get in it, you had to be a brown belt mentally just to get in the place. And the teacher was only a teacher because he liked to beat up people. He's
famous.
One of the greatest martial artists I've ever seen. World, famous and gorgeous. When he did a kata, people you couldn't speak. He was the current teacher of the Devil's Disciples, and everybody in the gym was like that. And my parents were no different than yours, anybody's, saying, look, who you hang around with, you got to pick your friends. So one day I decided, Howie and I decided, we're going to have Friday dinner. We're going to have Friday dinner at the Levine house. It was Rosemead. So we decided we were going to bring over a few of our good friends from Kajukenbo, Chinatown. So they came, my instructor came, and a few of my friends.
Tiny.
And they were very polite. Yeah, and Spencer, a few of them. So Spencer was wearing his beautiful black shirt, but underneath it was the black shirt. Underneath his outer shirt was his black shirt that said, F you with a finger. And the night went very well. Was speaking to all the guys, and so was my mother. And after they left, my father said, now those are the guys you should be hanging around with. The guy Spencer, who was sitting next to him, was a current terrorist, bringing bazookas from Brazil for the FLQ. The other guy was a serial killer, enforcer for Devil's Disciples and Satan's Choice. So the only non-serial killers at the table were Howie and I. Everybody else amongst them had killed dozens of people. And those were the people that my parents wanted to hang.
This got dark real quick.
Yeah, mommy.
I never told my father, but I did tell my mother about a week before she passed away. I told her. I went into the details. That my teacher was there basically in Canada because he was wanted for murder in the States. Other than that, everything went well. The roast beef was cooked well. We all had good dessert. It was a fun night.
They love bagels. They give them bagels.
To touch on your story, but my experience with the gym was I think a lot different as a kid. I got, like I said, I got picked on a lot growing up, and I think it was wanting attention from people that maybe were the cool kids and didn't want to give me the attention, and I ended up getting in a lot of fights. However, it was so cool because everybody from the gym, I was the youngest guy at the gym training MMA at the time. And, we had people in UFC and stuff like that and other organizations. But, they would go to make sure I wouldn't get jumped. And they would teach me and help me and take me to school and do me things. And they were really my father figures. And they taught me the right way and the wrong way to do things. So I had a little bit of different experience growing up, you know. So I want to share that with our kids, but that was pretty dark. I'm sorry you went through that.
So you could have been to our dinner then. Almost fit in with the dinner crowd. I like it.
No, Go ahead.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Okay. So, Brandon,
Eric, I want to mention something because just to get beyond that, before that, we were talking about how the UFC gyms are all for family, set up so nice, and they're more than just a fitness center. And I want to go back to when we started our first Gold Gym in Toronto in 1980s something. The biggest thing to avoid when you were building a new fitness club at that era was do not show anything to do with boxing or a boxing, a bag or
no
a
muscles,
ring. It was a kiss of death because of intimidation.
Yeah, no men with
so
muscles.
Things have changed quite a bit since that time.
Yeah, we even changed the sign to saying Gold's Gym for women and men.
Yeah.
Instead of men and women. We did everything we could. The colors, the ads were very fitness oriented with female dominated or a couple, never a man by himself, never a muscle. But I've
double bicep.
Yeah, cause I heard you guys. You changed your market. I think your first one was at Santa Monica, and then it went to Ventura, right?
First actually was in Toronto, Canada. That was the first.
Okay, Toronto. Yeah. I think you guys were talking about, hey, you didn't have to market to all the big buff guys because they were going to come anyway. They were going to drive from far away to come. And then you had
45 miles.
You had more women than men, correct? And you were the first one to do that. Yeah,
that's right. So
we had guys when we first opened up. We had people coming from 45 miles away just to go to the Gold Gym, the only one. Because when we went to scope out Toronto, all they had were like hotel kind of gyms with global chrome equipment.
Yeah.
One odd day women, one day men, the other day. It was like stepping into like a time zone that you couldn't imagine. We changed all that quickly.
But I think that you guys have done a great job at coming from where it started, and even though everyone knew what we're talking about now, it took some time. But I think you're right on it now. The latest group is. But here's the thing. So, to tell you the truth, I think it's the same around the world. Brandon, right now UFC is in many, many countries. How many countries are you in?
I believe we're in 36 right now.
Wow. 36 countries.
36,
so
36 or 37, soon to be 37.
So how is it possible to keep the brand identity? I know you are hypersensitive to the brand identity and the quality of it. How do you manage to do that in 37 countries?
It's hard. And again, that certification process of getting the people who really know MMA to be able to figure out whether or not someone can coach an MMA style class. That's a trigger point for me. And we were talking about lineage and authenticity. That's something I hold dear to me. But making sure that again, that's what separates us from every fitness club, right? Any Suzy Q kickboxing club or whatever the case may be. And when you go to UFC gym, you're going to actually learn how to box, kickbox, how to wrestle, do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, whatever facet of martial art that's going on in the octagon, whether you're on a bag or you're with a partner, it's going to be fun. It's going to be engaging, safe. You're not going to get hurt, right? It's probably less likely getting hurt than any other sport you're going to do. But mirroring that to, hey, our coaches really know what they're talking about. They're really teaching the right way to do things, and intersecting that self-defense with fitness is really going to be our key to success and representing the UFC in the right light and getting the right coaches. And again, MMA is a small community. I can talk to somebody or look at somebody do a move and I can tell right away. And I'm sure that you could do the same thing. Like, again, I know you're a yogi, right? We got a little conversation with that, Eric. But you can tell when somebody knows what they're talking about and when they don't know what they're talking about. So when we have the key people in place around the world to be able to check on that, so we keep that authentic MMA style to UFC, is crucial in our success moving forward.
How do the different cultures, Eric? Let me ask Brandon. When you're in a completely different culture, maybe more paternalistic or whatever, how do you tailor the programs or the training of the staff to deal with cultural sensitivities? I mean, there's quite a wide range of that across the world.
When we're talking about martial arts, you mean?
Yeah. Well, no, how you're training your staff to deal with, to be uniform in your programs, but dealing with culture, like if you're in an Arab country where the women are covered up or they might not be allowed to fight with men or whatever, like, do you have to factor that into all your training programs? In other words, how different are your training programs from one area of the world that you're operating into the other?
Yeah, so we're talking about, we have women's classes too, right? But we're somewhat in the U.S. market. We're somewhat phasing that out, and most of our classes it's 50-50 between men and women. But a lot of people don't like being with a partner. They just don't like it. They like being siloed to their own bag or their own spot. Nobody gets in their bubble, because it's one thing to be by yourself, and it's another thing sweating with somebody. It takes that little bit of courage and a little bit of know-how to be able to do that. So a majority of our classes are more conditioning oriented, and then you could step into the technique style classes if that's going to be your lead up after you learn a little bit and you wanted to do that. But as far as like how the classes go, hey, look, MMA's MMA. It's done pretty much, I won't say the same way, but there's a method to how classes should run, from A to Z, and no matter where you're at, it's going to be done the UFC gym way.
Right.
Everybody has human nature, right? We're all the same. We're all going to do the you might go somewhere else and they do something a little bit different, but it's still the same at the end of the day when you're reaching that particular goal. So like say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, an armbar is going to be an armbar here as it would be in Israel, right? There's not too much difference. There'll be some nuances that you could teach, but at the end of the day, it's still an armbar, and that's the end goal. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, well then, hey, right?
You're going to get
no refunds. No
refunds for you.
Well, I remember way back when Mark was looking at UFC, and we talked about all this stuff we're talking about right now. We talked about 20 years ago when NEB invested in it, and Mark's been behind the scenes in UFC, and can't have somebody more powerful or more worldly than him if you ever needed something. So that's in the bag. But it's amazing. Go ahead.
No. Say you brought up Mark. I'll share with you a great story if you guys want to hear it.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So, when I started at the gym, I didn't even I drove probably an hour away from my house, and I was working different gyms. I was working at nightclubs, and I somehow got the 6 a.m. spot at UFC GYM Rosemead. Again, an hour away from my house. I had to drive to teach a BJJ class. Didn't make the gas money to drive there, but I was young. I wanted to be a part of the UFC. I was like, man, this might be a way for me to get into the UFC, because I was already doing professional fighting. So I went to a grand opening. Dana, all the fighters were there, and I'm a super Dana White fan. I don't care about anybody else, but when I see Dana, I just got geek out like a little kid, right? I've looked up to him, ever since he got with the company.
He's great.
So, I wasn't making enough money to do anything. And then I would sleep in the closet, right? And teaching from 6 a.m. I did an hour class, sometimes sleep in the closet, and then I do a noon class. Or I'd go teach at a couple other spots another hour away and drive back to teach a noon class. And, there was a point where, my life was kind of going in different directions, and I had to make a decision. Do I want to stay with UFC GYM, or do I not want to stay with UFC GYM? I had a bunch of different opportunities on the line, and I remember I was driving and I'm praying and I'm thinking, what should I do? What should I do? And again, I'm making not enough money to get to the gym at that point in time. I wasn't a manager. I didn't have a bunch of personal training. I had 2 classes a day, like 5 days a week, and I had a couple other jobs I was going to let go. And something told me, hey, you're going to be way more blessed if you stay with UFC GYM. It's going to be a longer road, but you're going to be blessed if you stay with UFC GYM. So I went with my gut. I said, okay, forget everything else. I'm going to stay with UFC GYM. And at that time, things started snowballing for me, where I got the head Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu position, and then I got an MMA manager position, and then I got my youth director position. But you know, I had heard that Mark had owned 24 Hour Fitness, and my father, Donnie Bender, he worked for 24 Hour Fitness, and he was, what I heard, he was general manager for different clubs, yada yada yada. I used to hang out with like Tupac, Tyson, all these different people, and Mark Wahlberg, whatever. And I would hear that stuff growing up. And again, I didn't know him. I saw him a handful of times. I probably only said 2 sentences to me my whole life, but I was always trying to find my father, right? Let's say. And so I heard he worked for 24 Hour, and I would ask people, "Hey, did you know my dad?" Nope, nobody knew my dad. I said, "Okay, well, you know," and you know how, you know, guys, like, you know, sometimes you have general managers, like, people come and they go, right?
Right.
Definitely.
You know, you might see somebody and like they come, they go, and then you never see them again. Then people forget about them. So I thought it was maybe something like that. So fast forward some years later, when I'm the youth director, the first time at a company event, we had like all the managers come down. It was at a Christmas party, all this stuff, right? First time MMA people get to speak at an event, and I'm one of them, right? Oh my gosh, I'm nervous. I'm sweating. I'm my hands can't stop. I'm just shaking. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna say before I'm gonna go up. And we actually did a pre go at it before the speech, and
Rehearsal.
the rehearsal. And guess who was watching me?
Dad.
Jim Rowley.
Mark.
No, not Mark. I haven't seen Mark
Jim
yet.
Rowley.
Yeah, I don't even know what Mark looks like yet. It was Jim Rowley, and you guys know Jim, right? So I get up on stage and I give kind of my presentation, and Jim goes, "What else?" And I kind of look at Jim like, and so I said something else, and he's like, "Okay, well, what else?" And I was like, "Jim, don't worry about it. I got this." And I put a big smile on my face. I didn't know what the heck I was going to talk about, right? I just told him not to worry about it. And then he just kind of looked at me and he laughed, and he was like, "Okay." And like, he didn't know, like, I don't think he knew like whether or not I was serious or not. But I made him smile, so I was like, cool. So he's at, am I going on too long?
No.
No,
Okay.
keep going.
Hell
Fine.
yeah.
So I walk by. Jim is eating his lunch at the bar area, and then I walk. He was over here, and I see Jim, and I'm like, uh-oh. So I walk to the other side of the bar, right, trying not to make any eye contact with him to order some lunch. And then I think I made eye contact like for a second, and then he was staring at me and he waved me over. From what I remember.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh
Done
no.
deal.
Oh no, I'm
Yeah.
done.
Done deal.
I'm done. And then and so Jim just starts asking me all these different questions, like personal questions, like, you know, who's your grandma? Who's your mom? Dude, who's this? Who's that? Who's your dad? I said, I don't really know my dad, but whatever, right? All right, so this goes on for about 5 minutes. And then so I asked Jim, because I've asked everybody at this point. No one knew who my dad was, but I said, hey, well, I'm just gonna ask him, right? And then so I go, hey, Jim, do you know Donnie Bender? And then Jim turned his head sideways like he seen a ghost, and he looked at me, and he says, "That's not your dad, is it?" And I said, "Yeah, that's my dad." And he goes, "No, that's not your dad." I go, "No, that's my dad." And then he kind of like put his head out. He goes, "Your dad was an effing legend. Oh my God, yada, yada, yada. I was up here and he was doing all the celebrity clubs, blah, 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 blah." And then he's like, "You know what? I wasn't good friends with your dad, but Mark was. I'm going to introduce you to Mark." And I told him the story of how I kind of started. I got picked on. I ended up training, and I saw my dad at, I think it was UFC 13. It was UFC Judgment Day. And I saw my dad with Vitor Belfort. He used to manage Vitor and a few other fighters. But he was talking with Joe Rogan on the microphone. They said his name. And, I didn't know he was into any of that. And I just started training jiu-jitsu. And it was funny because my coach was actually there too with him. Because it was that whole Carlson Gracie lineage. So I see my coach and I see everybody that, that I know, and I'm like, what the heck's going on, right? So anyways, I can go long on the story, but for time's sake, I won't. But Jim goes, listen, I need to bring passion back to this company. Can you tomorrow, if you feel comfortable, because I'm kind of tearing up a little bit. It's a soft spot for me to talk about my dad because he ended up passing away. And he said, can you just share it tomorrow? If you feel comfortable, no pressure, but if you can share that, I think it'll bring passion back. Mm-hmm. Long story short, I share the story. I think I did a good job. I don't know. You kind of black out, right? Just talking. and then fast forward a couple months later, Mark gets in contact with me. And then I end up going out to lunch with Mark. And what's funny is I have the one thing that I got from my father before he died was a old photo album. And I see pictures of Mark in there, right, with my dad. So man, this is crazy. So I give Mark the book to show him, and he starts telling me who everybody is. And then he's telling me stories about my dad and Tupac and Tyson and Wahlberg and how everybody met and how everybody linked up. And at that point, I said, man, that one time when I was in my car, really contemplating whether I can go right, go left, or stay with UFC Gym, not make enough gas money to get there. I said, you know what, my gut was right, because this is exactly what I want to get out of it. And Mark shared with me more than anybody else about my dad. I learned that day, and it made it all worth it. So, I'm so passionate about UFC, but that part of intersecting with Mark really, changed my life. And as I know, we're on a call, Eric, that's why I'm so passionate about the MMA program, the authenticity of the UFC, because it's like my baby, it's like my baby.
Well, your dad, many years ago, I knew of your dad because he was friends with Mark, and Mark used to tell me about some of the Three Musketeers type of stories, which we share. What's the gross, and then we tell everybody all of the fun, crazy stories. And your dad's name came up a lot, and I did meet him at an early convention a couple of times. So yeah, he was a legend, your dad. He was a legend at the beginning with Mark and everybody else. Before UFC, before all that, he was a legend with your dad. So
yeah, I'm so indebted. Like that, not the money, not the anything. Like I got the piece of. Every day I get to come to work. I'm so ecstatic. I'm not a UFC fighter, right? Maybe one day, whatever. But I'm so happy to have this UFC on my shirt, and to come in and to coach kids and to coach families and show them what I've been taught and to help change their life like the UFC changed mine. And the fact that it intersected somehow with my dad just kind of brought everything full circle. Man, I could die. I don't want to die because I have a daughter, but I could die tomorrow and I'm good. It's life has given me more back than I could ever put in.
Good. That's a good story.
Well,
great.
It's a great story. And yourself, Mark, Adam, everyone, Jim, everybody, Derek, Donnie, everybody that I speak to, they have the exact same attitude about authenticity, the DNA of UFC. We're trying to work on something. I don't know how hard it is for me to get it passed by you bulldogs, but it shows. It shows in the quality. And for me, I mean, when I go to, I was at the 10-year anniversary in Northern California a few months ago. Yeah. And look at that club. It's 10 years old. Why would you want to go to any other club? It's got every single thing you want, plus the spirit, plus the MMA. I mean, you can't beat that, right? So
yeah, I saw you got that amazing picture with Dana.
Yeah. Well, he's one of my heroes also. I mean, he opened up a whole new avenue of CEOs. I mean, him and Joe Rogan, who just got $100 million contract, those two guys are leaders that they're their own, and that's it. And Fitness Guerrillas is one of those type of things. Of course, we're nowhere near they are, but we try to tell the truth. We try to tell it as we see it, not politically correct. We just tell what we think, and good and bad. That's how it is. And those guys are heroes of ours also.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that point, I think that the UFC gym especially on the outside, or we always have that in the MMA, like jujitsu. If you don't train, you don't know, right? Type of attitude, and it's really true, because it's not what everybody thinks it is. And just how Dana White really revolutionized the sport by making it a sport and not a bloodbath of people hitting each other in the groin, pulling hair, right? Like you really solidified it as a sport, and it has a violent nature, but it's a safe sport. I think it's safer than football or a lot of other things that you can do. And in that same way, we really have to break that barrier on the gym sense, because we're starting off thinking everyone thinks it's a fight gym. So to solidify that and to change the mindset and bring just how Dana changed the sport of UFC, I'm putting it on it's on my back, it's on everybody's back, our UFC gym, to really change that portion of it. So we're not a fight gym, we're a family gym. We have conditioning classes, fitness classes, self-defense classes, and you're not going to go home bruised and battered, because you can go to work the next day. Your kids are going to be talking. This is going to be the highlight of your day, coming to the gym.
Yeah. And if someone wanted to buy a UFC franchise, what would they do, Brandon?
Contact Adam Sedlak.
Just contact Adam Sedlak, UFC.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people want to do. It's not that expensive.
Yeah. I don't get in the weeds. I don't get in the weeds of that. I would contact Adam, let him run you through it.
All right, Howie, do you have any final questions or comments?
No, it was a great interview. Great.
You really spoke well. One last thing, Brendan. Yeah, you spoke very well. Exactly like a UFC DNA brand specialist. You are UFC.
Yeah, but anybody listening now has a much better idea, if they haven't already ventured into it, about what it's all about. Yeah, really all about.
I'd love to have my 8-year-old son in one of your classes. I'd feel 100% safe and honored that someone with your passion is looking after the whole thing.
Yeah, and like I said, we always talk about, teaching kids is special. You got to be a special person to teach kids. And I think, and there's an idea, and I think we had a mistake in the beginning, and what I really tried to change, and the teams tried to change, of, hey, well, if you could teach adults, you could teach the kids. And we weren't really asking the people, do you want to teach kids? It was kind of like, right. Yeah. We want people who work good with kids, like to teach kids. And I always say, if you can work with kids, you can work with anybody, right? Because the number one thing is patience, right? You got to have patience with the kids. And, sometimes too, adults can be worse than kids. Let's be honest, right? But if you can have patience with the kids, and you could teach a kids class and you can get through it, you could teach any class. Like the adult class is a cakewalk, right? So finding those type of people, and it's not something either that might be necessarily innate or people are scared, right? Because people don't have kids, they never work with kids, but we could teach it to people. You could teach how to communicate, how to have fun. Like I said, I'm not that funny, but when I start making fun of myself, the kids just think I'm Joe Rogan in there. I get the whole class laughing, but they're not laughing with me. They're more laughing at me, but I have fun with it, right? I have fun with it. And finding those right type of people and training them the right way to work with kids, I think can transcend our whole industry. Because like I said, once you can do that, it's like you don't really need to get trained how to teach adults anymore, because you know how to teach kids. Right. You'll be good to go. We went through XYZ, and didn't skip any beats. So like I said, I think that's so important.
Brandon, it was like Howie said, it was a fantastic interview, full of heart, passion, DNA of UFC. You've made UFC proud, that's for sure. And continued success in everything you do, and your daughter has a best father around. So thank you for being on the Fitness Gorillas. You're a fitness gorilla, Brandon, whether you know it or not. You're a gorilla for sure. So thank you, Brandon. Thank you very much.
Even read the poem, but anyway.
Hey, well, but you know what, Howie? Howie, I gotta get Eric. I gotta get Eric back. We gotta roll again.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna get him this time.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Guys.
Thank you, Brandon. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. So. Great, eh?
Well, there you have it. All of UFC, they all have that same passion for the brand. You know, it's a freaking great lesson for all of us gym owners to listen to that. Do you have
Yeah.
a staff
Imagine if
member?
you had a manager or a partner like
Yeah.
that.
Do we have a partner like that talking for about us like that? Or man, I mean, because if you do, you got it made. You're going to be successful. If you don't and you're doing everything yourself, maybe. But if you don't and
If you want to be big, you
you
have to
have
have a
multiple,
leader.
yeah, you have multiple clubs, it's not never going to happen. It our most successful brands, we had people that were in that category. But if you have someone like a Brandon Bender who is your brand, you're going to make it. And I think that's a great lesson for every fitness center out there. Try to. He didn't. I mean, he was the perfect start. He had the right intention, but trust me, he's been doing it a long time. It wasn't so easy. Like he said, they didn't pay him much at the beginning. Now he's the global director, 37 clubs around the world. Congratulations to Brandon and to UFC. Great story.
All
That's
right,
it for me, Howie.
let's wrap it up, and we'll see you again sometime quite soon. And
Yes.
again, very soon you'll hear about our free webinar and our master class where no stone is unturned and learning how to make a fortune. So we'll be up
Yes,
to
I
that
know
in a little while.
Yeah, it's all finished now, so we're just putting the final little tweaks on how we get it out to you. But the content is ready for you, and when you get that, your life is going to change. Your company's going to change. You make tons of money. So thank you for listening. Fitness Gorillas are out.
Out.